When you have a spiritual awakening, there's a part of you that changes at the speed of Usain Bolt.
Usain Bolt, challenged by Tyson Gay. Usain Bolt, 2 clear meters.
9.58! Smashing the world record! Unbelievable!
And then there's another part of you that changes about as fast as Jojo the turtle. The difference in the speed of change in these two parts of you is so polar opposite that it can cause a lot of unnecessary suffering in your life. But that's only if you don't know what's happening to you on a spiritual level or how to work through it. First, let's talk about the two main parts of you and how they're affected differently during a spiritual awakening. One of those parts is called the human self, and it's made up of everything you can see and perceive with your 5 senses. So that meat suit that you see when you stare in the mirror, that's a part of your human self. The human self is made up of matter, a physical substance that occupies space and has mass. It also operates within the confines of this time-space reality and is affected by time itself. This is why our bodies naturally age when we incarnate down here on Earth. The other part of you is called the quantum self, and this is everything that you cannot perceive with your 5 senses, but that are also a very real part of who you are. Here we're talking about the soul, the aura or electromagnetic field that surrounds your body, and the main energy centers of the body, the chakras. The quantum self is not made up of matter, it's made up of pure energy, and it operates outside of the time-space reality. That means it's not affected by linear time. It exists in a place of timelessness where only the present moment is possible. When you have a spiritual awakening, there are changes that happen to you instantly at the level of your quantum self because that part of you doesn't need time. The changes occur faster than anything you can imagine. Your quantum self is like Usain Bolt on steroids. But your human self is another story. Because your body is made of matter, it operates inside the constructs of time. So all the spiritual changes that occur instantly at the level of the quantum self take time to trickle down and fully integrate within your body. That's why your human self is like Jojo the turtle, taking its time to fully embody all the changes that happen at the quantum self first. And there's one particular part of the human self that takes its sweet time to change: the human brain. Within the brain, there are almost 100 billion brain cells called neurons. As you grow up and over time, when you practice new things and learn about the world, your brain cells start to connect to each other and form complex neural networks. These networks facilitate thinking and behavior, allowing you to compute thoughts and actions faster the bigger the network associated with that thought or action. Think of it like this. When you're born, your brain circuitry is more dispersed and looks like a virgin forest with no paths or roads in it. Then, as you get to know the world and start forming habits and beliefs, there's a dirt path that opens up in the forest, connecting one place to another. Pretty soon, the skinny dirt path gives way to a dirt road where a 4x4 can drive through. That dirt path then turns into a paved road. Then finally, the paved road grows into a multi-lane large highway. This is how neural networks form. Initially, there aren't many neurons connecting to form the paths, but as you continue to practice the same behavior or thought, more and more neurons are recruited to help out, and pretty soon you have a really big network that resembles a multi-lane highway. Once the brain establishes a strong neural network associated with a belief or a habit or a behavior, it becomes easier to think that thought or execute that action because there are so many neurons paving the road for that thought or action to happen quickly. And this is where we get into trouble. Because there are so many established neural networks in our brains that are associated with specific thoughts, beliefs, and personality traits, when the quantum self changes at lightning speed, that leaves the brain lagging way behind and needing so much time because it has all these neural networks that need to be reset. Your quantum self has changed in an instant into a new energy, but your brain is still thinking like the old self did, and this can create a painful internal tension between the new you and the old you. This tension is one of the main complaints I hear from people who are going through spiritual awakenings. They may go on a retreat or do powerful healing work on their own, upgrading their energies and healing at warp speed. But then they notice that their brains are still thinking the old disempowering negative thoughts just like before. And this huge discrepancy in energy can cause a lot of anxiety and restlessness in people. This is especially true if the person is overly attached to their minds. The more you cling to the thoughts in your mind, the more more anxiety you may feel at the pull between the old human self and the new quantum self. The good news is that the tension created by this lag between the quantum self and the human self is temporary, and eventually your human self and brain will catch up to the expansion and the changes of the quantum self. The bad news is that you can create a lot of suffering in your life in the meantime if you resist the changes that are precipitated by the quantum self, or if you identify too much with the old beliefs and the thoughts that need to be upgraded. But these 3 tips will help you speed up the human self changes so they can catch up to the quantum self a little faster. The first tip is to refocus your attention. Remember that your brain created these powerful neural networks that look like superhighways through endless repetition. That's how brain development works. The more you repeat something, the more the brain reinforces the neural network for that thought or action. So when I go through spiritual changes and my quantum self upgrades, the only way my brain will upgrade too is if I practice and repeat thoughts and behaviors that are different from the old ones. If I keep focusing on the old thoughts, my brain will keep the superhighways of neurons associated with those thoughts. But the moment I shift my attention to a different way of thinking, my brain will slowly start to perceive that I'm giving importance to something else. And as soon as that happens, the brain will start pulling neurons from the old networks and making new networks that reinforce my new way of thinking. For example, if I have an old belief that says I'm not good enough, that I have nothing of value to offer others or the world, that old belief will create a lot of painful tension when my quantum self upgrades. Because my quantum self is flying high with empowering energy filled with love. So the disempowering thoughts about myself create a lot of tension and resistance within my body. As soon as I feel myself thinking these old thoughts, I can immediately notice the thought or belief, not get attached to it, and refocus my attention to another thought that is more in alignment with my quantum shifts. Your brain has to expand into new routes and break out of habit. So if you have thoughts around not being good enough, a refocusing thought could look like this: I'm unconditionally loved by my source and I have a unique perspective to offer the world. This divergent positive thought will start to help dissolve the old negative thought and create new neural networks to support it. If you have a hard time initially refocusing your attention to a new thought, simply journal this question: how can I think about this differently? Just asking that question will help your brain expand into new solutions and open up new neural pathways. The second tip is to calm your body. When there's a lag between the quantum self and the human self, it could create an inner resistance in the body that's uncomfortable and can cause anxiety and agitation. And that creates a vicious cycle because the more anxious you are, the bigger the split will be between the human self and the quantum self. So the more your body feels calm, the easier it will be for it to catch up to all the energy shifts at the quantum level. One practice I love to use to calm the body is to focus on the vagus nerve, the master nerve of relaxation in the body. The vagus nerve is one of the largest nerves in the body, and it connects to many, many organs. One interesting area that the vagus nerve connects to is the vocal cords. So anytime you vibrate the vocal cords, you stimulate the vagus nerve. One cool way of doing this is by humming or chanting repeatedly like this. The longer you chant, the more your vagus nerve fires up and the more relaxed your body becomes. You can do this as a daily practice to help keep your body calm during these accelerated spiritual changes. The third tip is to drain energy. This means you learn to direct your energy into specific parts of your body so it doesn't pool all in one place. When your brain is lagging behind the quantum changes and you're still thinking old disempowering thoughts, that can concentrate too much resistance energy in the head. And one way to move through that energy is through this simple practice. Try this with me. Close your eyes and visualize or feel the energy pooled in your head. As you breathe deeply and slowly, consciously direct that energy down your throat and into the lower parts of your body. The energy that was concentrated in the head will now disperse to the rest of the body, and you'll feel less pressure in the head. This simple energy exercise is very effective in moving energy away from the brain, so you feel better every day as your human self catches up to the quantum self. And this is only the tip of the iceberg of what can happen to you during a spiritual awakening. Watch this video next to discover the 5 main ways in which spiritual awakenings are changing in this new energy, so you can make sense of what's happening to you.